Hello and welcome to session 3. So happy to have everybody back in here, and thank you all for being here for our Global Fabric Day 2026, Security, Location, and Intelligence in Microsoft Fabric. We are part of a global stage and a global community happening today. So these events are happening all around the world, and we ourselves have a very international stage, and I love that. Representing the Americas, Usman's in Pakistan. Lee is joining us from South Africa. Demir is in the chat, and he is in Berlin and is from Bosnia-Herzegovina. And Frank is in the chat and joining us from the DRC. So welcome, everybody. So happy to have all of our attendees here and all of that. So as I'm waiting for people to kind of jump over, I'm going to replay a little bit of what we saw earlier and then continue on with Kim and her team, and then I will be back. So there'll be a little bit of overlap from what you saw before. I'm just doing that just because I know people are just kind of popping in and joining us. So let me get that started.
Droppy to just asking the agent for what you want.
Okay, let's bring it back just a little bit. And
how does your GPU query acceleration work? Basically, you flip a switch and you see improvements. Now, the cool thing is, for a single user, immediately you start to see eight times faster improvements on your queries. But the amazing thing here is as you get more users, as you increase the load and the concurrency, you see more and more improvements, up to 107 times faster. This is amazing because instead of degrading as your load increases, the performance is actually improving. So let's take a look at a demo to see how simple it is to take advantage of GPU query acceleration.
I'm a developer building an application on top of Fabric Data Warehouse, and I want to make sure my users get insights instantly, whether they're viewing dashboards or asking questions of an analytics agent. Here we are in Fabric DW. I'm going to go ahead and run a couple of ad hoc queries. At the bottom, I can quickly tell that there's a brand new option called Query Acceleration. It tells me that it's off, but I can navigate to Workspace Settings and under Data Warehousing, find the Query Acceleration option and turn it on. And once it's on, it's applied to every SQL endpoint and every data warehouse in this workspace. Using it is simple. I just hit run and I can see that my query is being accelerated. Monitoring gives me visibility into what was accelerated and what was not. From this brand new column, I can quickly tell that several queries have already been accelerated. Frequently run queries gives me even more visibility with a count of the total accelerated runs for a particular query. And when I return to the query editor and click on Query Acceleration, I'm given a bird's eye view of the value this capability is adding for my particular data warehouse. Roughly 89% of the queries were accelerated, which is huge. We're super excited to get this GPU-powered data warehouse into your hands and accelerate insights faster than ever before.
Another really cool thing we showed at Build is agent skills for Fabric. These are first-party skills we publish for you to be able to pivot completely to agent-driven development in Fabric. This removes all the need for manual clicky, draggy, droppy to just asking the agent for what you want. So let's just take a look at how you can build an entire end-to-end ingestion layer with just a prompt.
These days, organizations are moving from manual data preparation to an agent-driven approach. So we're going to use Fabric's brand new agent skills repo to essentially provision an entire customer data pipeline from start to finish. Agent skills accommodate a range of Fabric capabilities. I have skills for several workloads, from real-time intelligence to data warehouse to data engineering. And using them, I can set up an entire medallion architecture from scratch. Let's take a look. I'm starting in the CLI with GitHub Copilot and one simple mission: build me out an ingestion engine, clean my ticket data, and prep me a silver layer. With just one prompt, look at us go. On the right-hand side of the screen, you can see my Fabric workspace, which is being populated with a Lakehouse artifact based on that prompt. After that, we'll see a notebook being provisioned as well, with all of the configuration and best practices applied for data engineering thanks to Fabric Agent skills. The skills are facilitating this for me based on my prompt, and when Copilot is finished, I can get a summary on the left-hand side of the screen of everything that's been done for me, with all the best practices applied. From there, I can move into Fabric to see my solution in action. In my lakehouse, we can see the silver table that was created for me via CLI. I have all my ticket data ingested in Fabric, and it's been categorized thanks to an agent-driven approach. We can go on to the latest and greatest in Fabric Analytics for further analysis. We're using the most up-to-date runtime, which includes Spark 4.0 and Delta 4.0. And we can run or schedule our notebooks with support for custom live pools. This capability takes the long pool startup times that many customers used to experience when loading in libraries and network security settings from 3 to 5 minutes down to anywhere between 3 to 5 seconds. I'm creating a schedule for these pools here. Basically, I'm saying at a certain time every morning, I want my custom live pool to be pre-warmed with all my configurations so we don't have to wait for those long startup times when I attach compute to my notebooks. Then, I can go ahead and publish the bronze to silver cleaning notebook that was created for me via CLI. I'm hooking up to my compute, and when I start up the session, check this out. We're going to be live in just 5 seconds. Moving to my SQL Analytics endpoint, I can analyze ticket data further using AI functions. Whether you're in a notebook or a data warehouse, working with PySpark or T-SQL, as I am here, these functions bring LLMs into Fabric with no configuration. Drilling into my ticket data, I can use AI functions to categorize it, assign sentiment labels to tickets, or classify those tickets according to custom categories. For instance, whether they're billing related, product related, or something else entirely. Fabric Data Warehouse also integrates with Activator for real-time alerting. I can create a query that will be used to trigger actions anytime data that's associated with a product quality issue, about strange noises, for instance, lands in my platform. In these cases, what I want is a trigger to fire so that one of my colleagues can be notified through Teams that there's a new ticket with negative customer sentiment. Using the interface here, I can configure the columns that I'd like the rule to read and then create it. With agent skills for Fabric Analytics, we've gone from prompt engineering to operational intelligence to real-time alerting in minutes.
All right, now we're done processing and harmonizing the data. The next step is to curate semantic knowledge. I always like to say, even if you brought a data expert who knew all the tools into your system and gave them access to all the data, and you asked them, hey, tell me the top 10 customers by revenue for the last year. The person would then say to you, fiscal year or calendar year, which customer column should I use? How do you calculate revenue? All of this business context needs to be given to the LLMs to operate appropriately. And that's really where this curation of semantic knowledge comes in. And this is where the heart of IQ really lives. And it starts with that unified data, bringing together all your data in one lake so that AI has access to the data and can ground itself in your organizational data. The next layer is really built on Power BI's semantic models. And the amazing thing is, we've got over 20 million semantic models out there active running. These semantic models were the ones that were used to build all those Power BI reports in your organization. But the amazing thing about those semantic models is they also contain amazing context. They contain the relationships between tables, the descriptions and titles, the calculations, the measures, calculated columns, all of this context, which is needed for AI to operate on the correct semantics. And so, you have these Power BI semantic models, but we can take it a step further. And that's where ontologies come in. And this takes it from business intelligence to operational intelligence. What happened to what's happening right now? Ontologies model the bit itself. Basically a digital twin of your business, the entities, relationships, actions, policies. All of this gives AI a richer understanding of how the business works and what actions to take. So let's use a real life example. A retail company, let's say, who has a store and maybe a bunch of warehouses and shipping processes. And there are a ton of entities across these, right? Market segments, the stores, the inventory, the shipments, the suppliers, and all of these have relationships, right? They depend on one another, they relate to one another. And then if you dig into any one of these entities, they all have a set of properties, some of which are, standard, some of which are IoT devices, some of which are flowing all the time in real time. And they all have actions you might take depending on the state of those properties. And so really, the ontology allows you to model all of this stuff along with the business objectives. And it's a great example here to think about, okay, your objectives are to make sure you manage risk and maintain compliance, that you're profitable, and that your customer satisfaction is high. But the fact that you can't be out of compliance, that is illegal and that comes first, that needs to be something that the LLM knows about. You need to put that in the system. So that's really where ontologies come in. And so OneLake really captures what happened, and our real-time capabilities and ontology, they capture what's happening right now in real time. But the question we get a lot is, where should you track what should happen? What are we aiming for? What are our goals? And that's really where planning in Fabric comes in, which is now generally available. This is the future-looking layer. It adds budgets, forecasts, scenarios, targets, all to the underlying data foundation in OneLake. So now you can reason not only over your current state, but also your intended future state. So let's take a look at a demo and see planning in Fabric in action.
Planning in Fabric makes it easy for teams to build out forecasts, budgets, and more directly from your workspace. I can create a new revenue plan with the same ease as any other artifact, and then instantly start working from data that lives in OneLake. If I want to build out a 2026 plan, I'll start with my 2025 data, which lives in a semantic model in the OneLake catalog. I can pull it in and look at those numbers, which break down in the canvas both by product category, on the left, and by quarterly revenue, up top. In this scenario, I'm a sales lead at a beverage company, and I'm trying to build out 2026 numbers based on those 2025 numbers. So I can make copies, hide the 2025 displaying around in this interface with what I hope for the year ahead. This view makes it easy to have confidence in estimates that we apply to categories. If we assign a growth rate to one category, we know it's going to trickle down through the underlying brands, it's going to get distributed proportionally across different quarters, and it's going to roll up to the overall plan figure at the top left. This way, everything stays in sync. It's interactive, the numbers are connected, and we have confidence as we start gaming out hypotheticals about what the year will look like. When we're happy with certain numbers, we can lock them in place. Then, changes that we make to the overall get distributed only to open categories, not to categories that we've locked already. We can always tag in team members for review and continue working with the rest of our colleagues. When you build out a financial plan, it's sensible to have different scenarios in your back pocket. A best case, a worst case, and so forth. This interface also makes that process simple. I can toggle between a best case scenario and the base case that we've previously defined. Sliders in the interface make it simple to play with numbers and capture changes with respect to the base case. Just a few clicks and it's all locked and captured. I can always switch from this tabular view into a tree-based view that makes everything even more explicit and visually friendly. How the numbers break down from top to bottom, but also how they add up from bottom to top. I get a lot of customization and collaboration with this experience, the same way I do with other Fabric capabilities. So in the interface, I can add my own columns to the plan. I can customize rules and security preferences that govern things like who can comment, who can add data, who can build in scenarios, and on and on. And there's also a handy auditing view built in, so I know who has touched what and when. This is crucial when you're dealing with sensitive financials and you need to make sure nothing strange is going on. When I'm done with my plan, I have write-back capabilities built in, so I can connect to a Fabric SQL database. We started with the semantic model, and we're ending with the SQL table. This is all integrated with OneLake. There's no gap between the planning software and the data. It lives in one place, and we now have a table corresponding to the plan we've just built. In Fabric, this plan can also be worked into our ontology. That way, the model of the business operations takes into account not just analytics data from the past and streaming signals from the present, but also a sense of where we're going. Planning in Fabric captures that future-looking angle for every employee and every agent.
Okay, we're at the last step, empowering AI agents. I'm super excited about the announcements from Build on this one. This one might be my favorite feature that we announced lately, and it's called Apps in Fabric. This is the next step for agentic application building. Here you can host production-grade apps on governed data from Fabric with completely managed backend services, not just analytics artifacts. So rather than me telling you all about it, let's just get right into the demo.
The Rayfin SDK makes it easy to build out enterprise-ready apps in Fabric in just a few minutes. Agentic development from the IDE, which you see here, is increasingly common, but there still tends to be a bottleneck, the backend. Setting up a database or wiring up auth is where vibe coding projects stall, and where Rayfin comes in. What you're seeing here is the result of a single command from the Rayfin CLI. I've picked a blank app template and given it a name, and now Rayfin is setting up the whole project for me. Behind the scenes, Fabric will provision the foundational resources, from a dedicated app artifact to a linked SQL database to a static hosting URL. The app will be live in seconds, with my entire backend set up and scaffolded. Then I can turn to GitHub Copilot to build out the interface of my dreams. I'll describe what I want in natural language, a delivery app with certain custom parameters, and Copilot will generate the data schema, the UI components, the pages, and the flows, all for me, wired up in code I can inspect and edit. The result is a fully functional app in Fabric, which I'm seeing here. Drivers can log deliveries with photos, and customers can review orders on tablets and sign to confirm receipt. The whole exchange is captured end to end. And because Fabric provides the backend, there's no separation between the app I just built and the enterprise platform where operational data lands. In my governed workspace, I can see that app artifact alongside its linked Fabric SQL database. Here's the data from that transaction starting to flow straight in. And in the OneLake catalog, my new app sits right alongside every other governed asset across the business. Instead of a proof of concept or a prototype, I get an enterprise-ready app built in minutes, something my team can use on day one, thanks to Rayfin and Apps in Fabric.
It's awesome how easy it is to build applications in Fabric. And now take those applications and combine them with the power of semantic models, with all of that trusted context that you've built out in your business through your use of Power BI. Now imagine you can combine the context from your Power BI reports with these powerful applications you can now build in Fabric. Now you can support both operational applications and analytical applications side by side on the same governed foundation. This is going to unlock a whole new way of building BI applications. Let's take a look.
Thanks to the Rayfin SDK, my team just built a delivery app that lands real operational data in a Fabric SQL database. Every drop and every to run this, including a semantic model I want to put to work. In addition to Power BI reports, I can now build custom data apps using the same Rayfin SDK that sped up my delivery app development. I'm getting started with a new app item directly in Fabric. I'll give my data app a name, and then I can choose a specific template for analysis and visualization. The app shell lays out all the next steps, including a setup prompt I can hand straight to GitHub Copilot. In VS Code, Copilot uses the Rayfin SDK to scaffold my project, wiring up auth and connecting to the assets in our governed Fabric workspace. The agent can also reach for a Power BI skill that lets it generate interactive visuals directly against my semantic models, without rebuilding the foundation my analytics team maintains. With that scaffolding ready, I can get more specific. I want to connect our customer satisfaction semantic model to the new delivery data, creating an exec view with monthly CSAT trends, a regional breakdown, and a delivery impact correlation. Copilot generates the visuals, the data joins, and more. Everything gets wired in, ready to render against live data. And when that's done, I get a live link of what's been pushed to Fabric. Back in my workspace, here's the result. An interactive dashboard pulling from both my new delivery data and the existing semantic model. It's all here. Current CSAT, on-time delivery, complaint rate, that's the full arc of what the Rayfin SDK unlocks. Operational and analytical apps in Fabric, built side by side on the same governed foundation my team trusts.
Last, but certainly not least, I wanted to talk about Operations Agent. These are always on virtual teammates, not reactive chatbots. They can monitor signals and continuously work in teams side by side with you and take actions on your behalf. This is amazing because it takes advantage of all the ontology context that you've built out. So let's take a look at Operations Agents in action.
In Fabric, creating a new operations agent takes just a few steps, as with any other item. Here, I'm setting up an agent to monitor customer churn. I want it to watch my marketing signals 24/7 and help me retain customers over time. The setup experience opens immediately, and we can see what's happening on two sides of the screen. On the left, I'll provide inputs to define the agent, and on the right, the agent's playbook will take shape in real time as I go. I start by defining some goals, as I would while onboarding any new team member. In plain natural language, I'm telling this agent to help retain customers and reduce churn for the business. From there, I can add more explicit instructions, explaining what churn actually means and outlining the kinds of actions the agent should consider taking when it identifies a customer at risk. All of this is easy to provide conversationally, in natural language. But the real power comes in when I connect the agent to my operations ontology. I can select that ontology with a few clicks, and immediately the agent gets access to a common semantic context layer across the business. It can inherit existing actions, or I can define custom actions. Here, I'm going to add a new action that sends promotional codes to customers at risk of churning. I'll provide a couple parameters, the customer ID, the discount amount, and just like that, I've armed the agent with a new tool to reach for when it identifies a possible churn risk. So on the left-hand side of the screen, I now should have everything I need wired up. Goals, instructions, knowledge, actions. I'll save my work and generate the agent's playbook. This playbook represents the agent's working understanding of the business, of the system, and of the data. And most important, it shows what the agent is actually going to do with all that context. With the playbook generated, we can see on the right-hand side of the screen that the agent is surfacing business terms it's picked up along the way, like customer activity, and the different properties associated with those terms. The playbook lays out the rules clearly. These are the conditions the agent is watching for, and the actions the agent can take when the conditions are met. Things look good to start, so I'll put the agent to work. You can think of the agent as a virtual colleague. It's running in our working channels alongside the rest of the operations team. Switching over to Teams, I see that the agent is already at work. As soon as it spots an issue, it posts a message to the channel, and I can pull up all the context using Show Details. Here I see the underlying data points the agent considered in identifying churn, including the fact that in this case the triggering event was an add to cart action. Now, that's not really a strong indicator of churn on its own, so I can head back to the agent configuration and tweak the instructions. I'm helping the agent learn more about our business and our context so that going forward it can perform better. A bit later, back in Teams, the agent has alerted us to a new opportunity based on my evolving instructions. This time, the trigger is an abandoned cart, which is a much more reasonable signal for sending out a promo code. The agent shows me the action it wants to take, it lays out the relevant properties, and with a click, I can confirm. Just like that, I've not only created the agent and gotten it running, I've also watched the agent learn to identify a real opportunity and take action on my behalf, so that it can operate more autonomously at scale in the future. Everyone loves a promo code, and we can see how the agent helped close the loop for a particular customer here, streamlining our business operations on behalf of the team.
Okay, that was a whirlwind tour of the Fabric IQ framework. We went from bottom to top all the way to empowering AI agents. And I'll wrap up by restating really the full journey here, right? We brought together all of this context, not just for humans, but for agents, to get that shared foundation to operate off of the context of your business. And the awesome thing here is this can be reused over and over again with the many agents you're building. And there's a lot going on in Fabric, and there's a lot to learn. I'm super excited you're here today with us in the Global Fabric Day. And I wanted to highlight a couple key resources for you. The first is Fabric Jumpstart. This is a great way for you to accelerate your Fabric journey by getting a quick one-click install library of samples. So definitely try this one out. I also wanted to highlight Data Days, 60 days of data and AI trainings, June 15th to August 7th. A ton of totally free resources. You can connect with the community. You can learn from one another. So check out AKMS Data Days. Also, get your Fabric or SQL certifications for free. just for being an attendee of Global Fabric Day and Data Days. Here are all the instructions to go get your free certification. Definitely check it out. This is the #1 resource I recommend getting certified if you want to go all in on Fabric. This is a great resource. You can use today's sessions as well as Data Days to learn and get ready for your certification. Thank you so much and have a great time on Global Fabric Day.
Okay, we're back. So we got the opportunity to see Kim and her team. And there we are, we're back. Okay, so let us run through our content for session 3. I think she led us in really well. And let's just check in the chat, see how, okay. Okay, perfect. Yeah, if there's any questions, let us know. We obviously so happy to have everybody here and just celebrating Global Fabric Day. Again, it's such a international event. And now we're talking about sort of from data to intelligence and making, sort of, I think one thing I definitely heard a lot in graduate school was how clean the data that we were being given to analyze was. And I definitely understood this better when I got my first internship with the US Geological Survey. And I was in the wilds and I had to go get data and clean data and realize how incredibly messy data actually is. And so that's it's a very much part of what we're looking at is some of the issues of where AI and just in data in general, we expect all of this to be clean and seamless. I'm actually going to change our view here so we can just come straight into the slides. Okay, here we are. So we expect all to be clean and seamless and just easy, and then reality is doesn't look so good. So analysts currently can spend 60 to 80% of their time just validating the data, and then we know when we work with AI, if you're not giving it clean data, like it can create all sorts of other problems. So we'd rather spend our time analyzing that data and visualizing that data. But we really need to make sure that that data is validated, because what we give to AI is going to be amplified. And AI does not create intelligence. It amplifies distrust and accelerates the distribution of errors if we're not aware. So the anomaly of a stalled AI initiative is you've got inconsistencies in your semantics. So revenue can mean different things in finance, sales, and operations. So models trained on conflicting definitions yield conflicting answers. Retrofit governance. So security and compliance requirements are bolted on after models are built, forcing costly rebuilds and delays. Invisible lineage. AI surfaces an anomaly, but the origin of the underlying number cannot be traced or validated by stakeholders. And unobservable pipelines. So silent failures in upstream data engineering produce stale or incorrect data without triggering alerts. So the pre-flight diagnostic for enterprise data products, complete, that there's no significant missing values in context critical dimensions. Consistent, named conventions and business grains are standardized across domain. Current, so fresh SLAs are enforced, stale data is flagged immediately. Correct, quality rules are strictly enforced at ingestion, not at the reporting layer. Contextual, data is deeply enriched with lineage, owner, and metadata. And governed, access controls and retention policies are mathematically guaranteed before deployment. So why AI projects stall before they deliver? Because data isn't trusted, because analysts spend 60 to 80% of their time validating the data rather than analyzing it. And then AI amplifies that distrust, not confidence. Semantics are inconsistent. So the idea of revenue means different things in finance, sales, and operations. AI models trained on inconsistent definitions produce inconsistent answers. I'll give an example of that. We talk about semantics, and also this also relates to ontologies and how things are connected. Just basic definitions of things. I was looking at OpenStreetMaps, and I was doing an analysis of how it is used and governed in the United States, India, and China. Just the term playground in the United States, that means a place where children play. There's usually swings and seesaws and other things that kids can kind of climb on, and it is a place where kids go to play as a park with those kind of toys. And then in India, a playground is where you play cricket, and it's a field, it's a sports field. So very different. And if you're not working with the same ideas, or if the meaning of a words are interpreted differently, then you're going to get problems. So lineage is invisible, so no one can trace the number where the number came from. And so when AI surfaces an anomaly, no one can validate it. Governance is an afterthought, so security and compliance requirements are retrofitted after models are built, forcing costly rework, and pipelines aren't observable. So silent failures in data pipelines, producing stale and wrong data with no alerting. So AI readiness, what your data needs to look like: complete, current, contextual, consistent, correct, and governed. And so engineering trust through 5 architectural patterns. So 1, ingest with lineage tracking. 2, quality gate at the silver transition. 3, semantic models as the ultimate truth. 4, apply sensitivity labels before serving. 5, monitor outputs for drift and anomalies. And so this is where you get your blueprint for working AI inside of Fabric. So pattern 1, automate the lineage from the first data touch. So you've got your raw data source, you're ingesting it, transforming it, validating it, enriching it, and storing it in the Fabric Data Factory pipeline, and then you get your downstream AI insight. So the mechanism is Microsoft Purview integration with Fabric Data Factory, and the outcome, you're going to get end-to-end observability. When the AI agent generates an answer, the exact origin of the data points can be mathematically traced, audited, verified by human operators. I feel like I'm missing a pattern 2. Oh well, sorry. Patterns 4 and 5, secure the interface and monitor the outputs. Label before you serve, apply sensitivity labels and classifications before data is exposed to Copilot or Fabric IQ. Security travels with the data. And then monitor output drift, set up pipeline alerts and anomaly detections on AI outputs, not just inputs. Statistical drift in AI outputs is a critical governance signal. Architectural contrast, working AI versus stalled AI. So working AI, you've got data access, traceability, quality control, and security posture. Where stalled AI, the raw tables exposed directly to Copilot, zero traceability, quality discovered and debated at reporting, which is too late, and labels applied post hoc or completely ignored. Where what we want is semantic models tightly govern. It governs data access. We want lineage actively tracked from source to final output. We want quality enforced strictly at ingestion. I want sensitivity labels applied natively before AI interaction. So make sure those semantic models governs data access, lineage tracked, data quality enforced, sensitivity labels applied, output monitoring and drift detection, and avoid raw tables, no traceability, quality validated at reporting, which is too late, labels applied ad hoc or not at all, and AI outputs reviewed manually and infrequently. So trusted AI patterns inside of Microsoft Fabric, ingest with lineage, quality gate at silver, semantic models as truth, label before you serve, and monitor the outputs. And then Microsoft Fabric is an enterprise intelligence operating system. So you're going to have business action layer, decisions made, automated, and tracked, AI and decision layer, Fabric IQ, Copilot, custom ML as trusted outputs, semantic and governance layer, semantic models, purview, lineage, and core trust layer, storage and processing layer, OneLake, Spark, SQL, real-time intelligence, and ingestion and integration layer, so pipelines, event streams, and partner connections. So with decision intelligence, we're connecting data to decisions, so your raw data to your governed lakehouse, to your semantic model, your AI IQ layer, your decision output, and your business action. But where most organizations stop is in entity resolution. They match and connect records across systems without a master data management platform. So you can use Fabric semantic model as the connector. Semantic consistency, define revenue, customer, incident, and other critical items once. Fabric enforces them across all workloads. And explainability by design, build lineage and data quality metadata into every AI output so stakeholders can audit the answer and not just consume it. And so with Fabric as the enterprise intelligence layer, it's not a data warehouse, not just a BI tool, it's a whole intelligence operating system. And that is, you've got a business action layer, an AI and decision layer, semantic and governance layer, storage and processing layer, and ingestion and integration layer. So all of that is in Fabric that makes it such a valuable tool, and why so many of us love it and are so many enterprises are using it now, because it is such a useful, and there's just, like I said, so many different parts to it as we talk about how this decision intelligence connects data outputs to business actions. So your activation curve, so the insight traps where, again, most organizations stop, and we want to go from raw data to governed lakehouse to semantic model to AI IQ layer, and then have this insight. So where they stop is the insight without automated action. So it just becomes an expensive observation, or true decision intelligence requires operationalizing the output, embedding trusted AI insights directly into business workflows. And there you get business action and decision output that's actually useful to everybody in the decision pipeline. So the intelligence layer mandate, AI projects stall due to structural data debt, not algorithmic limitations. The 6 C's of AI readiness are mandatory, pre-flight checklist, not a suggestion. Trusted AI requires a single governed semantic model serving both BI and Copilot. Stop at insights and you fail, push through to automated decision intelligence. So our takeaways are that AI projects stall because of data problems, not AI problems. So trust, semantics, lineage, and governance come first. The 6 C's of AI readiness: complete, consistent, current, correct, contextual, governed, are all your pre-flight checklist. Trusted AI requires a governed semantic model, one definition of truth that both Power BI and Copilot consume. Decision intelligence means connecting data outputs to business actions, not just surfacing insights and stopping. And Fabric provides the tooling for all of this, but the organization must configure and enforce it. And that brings us to the end of this session. Let's see if we have some questions, or just checking in with all of you. I'm going to thank Usman, who has been such a wonderful mod, who has joined us from Pakistan, and it is super late night for you. So, and I know it is super late night for many of you who are joining around the world. So with that, we're going to say thank you and good night, and we'll let you kind of pick up as you will, if you want, our future sessions, which are all available on replay, and all of the post-event resources that we'll have. And just encourage everybody to use all of the links. And again, I'll be following up with post-event resources, and you can access replays for anything that you've missed. And I know we do cover a lot of ground, and it's quite a long event, but I just like to kind of do this just because there is a lot of ground to cover. And I just want to sort of break down the silos. And so we can integrate the data and security and location and Fabric IQ and ontologies and all of it, and data agents into our conversations. So I don't have the slides specifically available for you, Corinne, but what I will say is that what I do is do post-event resources. So if there are particular slides that you were looking for, you can always kind of come back and screenshot them through the replays, but a lot of the stuff will be available to you in our post resources. So that's why I always encourage everybody to sign up for the Luma, because that's kind of how I can communicate with all of you there. And also wanted to shout out to Lee for being such an amazing lead mod. We love having you, and you've just been so dedicated from session to session. not just for today's event, but in many of the other events that we've done as well. So just super grateful to you as well, and thank you for all that you do, and to everybody who's here. It is a really it's fun, and I love it. And I'm, like I said, I just always feel like I want to teach in the public square. It's kind of where I like to be, especially having sort of just done so much time in grad school. And I think I'm also learning how these things integrate for myself, because even my own education was very siloed. And I felt like I did an entire degree in GIS and data science and geospatial intelligence, and that covers a lot of fields. But as we pushed into national security, and then I started getting involved in more organizations, I was like, wait, cybersecurity, why don't they talk about that in our studies? And I ended up getting a third master's specifically focused on cybersecurity and law and governance, risk, and compliance, and privacy, because I did not feel that that was appropriately covered in my GIS degree. And I just felt like there's room at the table for us to blend these disciplines and be more, and really a lot of it is just incorporating the language, so that the language is not foreign to you when we talk about coordinate systems, or when we talk about zero trust or least privilege or role-based access and IAM, identity access management. And all of these things just become terms that become just very common to you, and sort of when you hear them, you know what they are, and you know how to apply them. And just accessing, sort of applying Purview in your Fabric workflows is just as comfortable to you as applying Esri and location intelligence. And that's the goal here, is just to get you to be conversant and fluent and embracing these things not as separate disciplines, but as things that, you as data analysts just feel are tools in your toolkit, and just expand the field for you. And that's specifically why we created this user group as well, to really do deeper dives into these particular types of content, and to open the stage as well. I always I'm kind of leading today, but as many know, I'm just always welcome speakers to come and share the stage with me and do these events. And so I'm excited to welcome several more speakers who'll be joining us for our kind of user groups data days. So I love sharing with you, but I love to introduce and platform other people as well. So with that, we're going to wrap up this session, and we'll look forward to seeing you in our next session. We're going to do our deeper dive into security. So we'll be talking a lot more about Purview and Entra ID and just governance and all the cool things that we get to talk about when we put our security hats on. So I look forward, and I'll see you all there.